There are no U.S. service members in Gaza. There is a small U.S. military component on the pier itself. And I want to add one more point. You reminded me that the Israelis, and the IDF in particular, have been enormously helpful and supportive of this effort, this temporary pier, and their role on the beach and on the ground in supporting it. They've been very, very helpful, extremely cooperative.
So it's clear that it is a temporary military base. And why are we not surprised? Because that base is only 400 kilometers away from a Russian army base in Syria.
Why is the United States building a port off the coast of Gaza when there's a perfectly good one about a 30-mile drive further north, in fact, a major international container port?
So we are looking to build, or exploring a maritime option to get humanitarian assistance into Gaza because the other options have not proven sufficient. So
on Friday, we presented the press conference of John Kirby, the Zionist spokesperson of the White House, and who has exposed himself spectacularly during the whole of Gaza conflict. So we have seen that. On Friday, he came and appeared on the podium of the White House to flaunt the completion of the construction of what he calls temporary pier in Gaza.
As we speak, additional aid from the United States and other countries is arriving in Cyprus, where it will be screened by Israeli authorities and loaded onto ships for delivery via the maritime corridor, the temporary pier that we've been talking about. And here you can see trucks just today. The first truck includes pallets from the UAE, as a matter of fact, heading across that causeway, that temporary causeway, onto the beach. And once in Gaza, once on the beach, the aid will be distributed to those in need by the United Nations. So in less than 2 months, the United States was able to assemble a complex multinational logistical mechanism to facilitate the delivery of life-saving assistance in Gaza.
Now, you saw the broadcast, so I don't want to dwell on that, but there were certain elements that I don't know if you have noticed that he said, which completely exposes American establishment and exposes their dirty motives in relation to Gaza. So he starts within 2 minutes of his inaugural speech. He exposes himself by saying that, look, we don't have any dirty motive.
So this is a humanitarian effort. And contrary to what we've been seeing out there in the information space, particularly in the region, it is designed solely, only, for the delivery of humanitarian assistance. There's no other purpose for this than humanitarian assistance. And we're obviously grateful for all the U.S. service members and our teams at USAID and the State Department for their tireless work over the past few weeks to get this going.
Why would you say that? That you don't have a dirty motive and your U.S. troops are not going to be on the ground? Actually, they're going to be on the ground. You said that in the same press conference that the U.S. troops are going to be on the ground in Gaza. They will not be, according to you, they will not be with the population of Gaza, but they will be on the pier. The pier is part of Gaza.
There are no U.S. service members in Gaza. There is a small U.S. military component on the pier itself. And they're there really to do sort of two things. One is to provide a modicum of security for it, but also to assist with the logistics. I mean, you're going to have ships pulling up to this pier, not the big cargo ships. They'll transport it to smaller ships off the coast of Gaza. Those smaller ships will bring the goods onto the pier, and you're going to need some logistical support to get it from the ships onto the trucks. So there's a small footprint of U.S. military on the pier, but they will not go into Gaza.
How many, when you say small?
I think I'm going to let the Pentagon speak to the numbers.
Now, he's rightly asked a question about the interference from Israeli troops into the aid distribution, because we have seen that. Why would you need to construct a temporary pier when Israelis were so great and they cared so much about Gazan population? Why would you need to create a pier? They would have allowed you to go take all the relief materials through the land route. But they didn't. In fact, they waited until people started dying of starvation. Even the starving people people and their subsequent deaths were not enough to move Israeli government to allow aid materials to go through the land route. Even then they didn't do that. As I speak, they have closed Rafah crossing. Rafah crossing is absolutely crucial. I'm not saying that. Even Americans are saying that. And it's been more than a week since Rafah crossing has been closed, since Israelis closed Rafah crossing after taking control of that crossing from Palestinian people. So we all know that the Israelis have been evil, pure evil. To say that Israelis have been great is like supporting evil, which is what Americans have been doing it. But the whole purpose of recording this video is to expose America completely on this. So what happens? Journalist Nadia asked a question as to questions on the possible interference from Israeli authorities into the aid distribution. That was the question. What Kirby says is that he suddenly realizes that he needs to praise the IDF. And he says, well, IDF's behavior have been extraordinary.
Were there any conditions that Israelis impose on certain items in this aid that will get into Gaza? Because in the past, they won't allow scissors, for example, wheelchairs, other items, or they just purely food?
This is really focused, certainly today, and I think in the coming days, it's really going to be focused on food, nutrition. That's really the focus, and there's been no restrictions placed by the Israelis on that.
Okay,
And I want to add one more point. You reminded me that the Israelis, and the IDF in particular, have been enormously helpful and supportive of this effort, this temporary pier, and their role on the beach and on the ground in supporting it. They've been very, very helpful, extremely cooperative.
What he's trying to say is that Israelis have never been evil. They have been really good people. They have been the descendants of Mother Teresa. And they have all studied from Mother Teresa's missionary of charity in Calcutta. They are the graduates from that missionary. So therefore they carry that compassion for poor people. They don't kill people. They don't starve people to death. They've been really helping us. So much so that they closed the land route and they allowed us to go through the sea route. That's how compassionate they have been. I mean, seriously, John Kirby, you can go to this level to support your real masters in Israel? You think we are fools here? You think people around the world are fools to say that there is no dirty motive? I mean, you have spent $320 million. $320 million to create a temporary pier when a functioning port is available literally 17 kilometers from there, which Israelis have blocked for last 17 years. Since 2007, that port is blocked because of Israel. So this question was asked. This question was asked right in the aftermath of this State of the Union address. And you see how he's struggling to give answer. Because clearly their lies are being caught. So whenever their lies are being caught, this is what they happen. They stutter. They can't complete their sentences.
Why is the United States building a port off the coast of Gaza when there's a perfectly good one about a 30-mile drive further north, in fact, a major international container port?
So we are looking to build, or exploring a maritime option to get humanitarian assistance into Gaza because the other options have not proven sufficient so far, is the bottom line answer to that question. So we have providing airdrops. We've been providing those over the past little over a week to get emergency assistance in, and we are exploring a maritime option to get additional assistance in. But I should be clear, and you've heard me say this and others from the administration say that it is no substitute for assistance continuing to come in over land. And so we'll continue to push for it to come over land. Now, whether that comes through Ashdod port and then travels over land, or it comes through Jordan or comes from Egypt, ultimately doesn't actually matter. It matters how it gets. It matters that it gets into Gaza, whether it comes through a port or another means. So we're going to push to see the land routes expanded. What we are doing is to supplement that, not replace it.
And America have the power to make Israel give access, to that port, the functioning port. America has the power to force Israel to open the land routes. America had all these powers. they have chosen not to use these powers because they are equally complicit with what is going on in Gaza. So if they say that they're concerned about the sufferings of Gaza people, they are lying to you. We know that. We really think that we are again fools to understand that you spent $320 million to create a temporary pier? Who does that? That $320 million could have been well spent to feed 2.4 million population, for months. But that's not the intention. Do we not know that your base now, the military base, you admit here, right? You say that there will be American troops there. He refuses to divulge the number of those troops, but he says that there will be on the so-called pier. So it's clear that it is a temporary military base. And why are we not surprised? Because that base is only 400 kilometers away from a Russian army base in Syria. So on the 7th of March, Joe Biden announced the need to create a temporary pier in his State of the Union address. And we were told that it will be 60 days until this is built. 60 days people can die. Have you ever been in this situation? Any one of you, whether you are Israeli supporter or Palestinian supporter, have you ever found yourself in a desperate situation? I have in the pandemic, when every second counts. When your loved ones are dying and they need to be given food, medicine straight away. But you are asking them to wait for 60 more days. Don't worry, wait for 60 more days. And we will start transporting, aid materials. And those aid materials are also going to be a tiny fraction of what is required. Because this idiot Kirby himself says that this cannot be a substitute to the supply of aid materials through land route. And then this Kirby says that everything that is being shipped to Gaza, to this so-called temporary pier, is being screened by IDF forces, Israeli Defense Forces people, who are stationed in Cyprus. Just imagine the pain they have taken, that they have flown all the way from Israel to Cyprus to screen these materials. But they could not allow the same thing. Look at their sincerity. If there is no dirty motive, why would you take the pain to fly all the way to Cyprus to screen those materials when you could have simply opened the land crossing or allowed the US, your own partner, to use the existing facilities at that port, the functioning port that I'm talking about.
You mentioned that the aid coming through the pier was going to be screened by Israeli authorities. How confident are you that that's not going to cause sort of delays in terms of the aid being held up? And also, if I may, how confident are you that there's not going to be delays at the other end, at the pier end as well?
Well, look, it's day one. And as I just said, we've got indications here just before I came on out here that some of that aid was already moving into Gaza. That's pretty impressive for day one, just day one. The inspections are actually happening in Cyprus. And that's a really important component of this modular system that we've constructed here. So the inspections are happening before the ships even leave Cyprus and move on down to the eastern coast. The eastern med, off the coast of Gaza. So right now, it seems like a very good system in place. But again, it's day one, so we'll take a look and see how it goes.
And the reason why people are suspecting that America has a dirty motive behind creating this pier, which they are saying that it's a beginning of the creation of a full-fledged military base, is that Iran's retaliatory attack on Israel has exposed the so-called invincibility of Israeli military power. So America now realizes that Israel alone cannot protect itself. So America needs to have its forces on the ground there to protect its illegitimate child. So to say that you are only there for the short period and American troops will not be there on the ground, it's another lie. And sooner we know it, the better it is for all these stakeholders. Because if you're so concerned, you wouldn't have been blocking, every resolution in the United Nations. You would not be issuing warnings to ICC judges and ICJ judges. You would not be saying that the ICJ and ICC don't have any jurisdiction. So it's clear that you are not concerned about Palestinian people. You're definitely not concerned about Palestinian people. And you're definitely not concerned about the rising number of death toll, as a result of Israel continuing its mass slaughter of Palestinian people. You're definitely not concerned. You are there with only one motive, and that one motive is to protect the interest of Israel at any cost. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.